Now this is podcasting, and you're listening to the Nerdthusiast podcast. I am your co-host, Richard Eiley, here with my trusty co-host, Matthew Morosi.
Ayo!
That's a good one. I like that one a lot. Matt, B-sides today. We're doing some B-sides of podcasting. We're not doing gaming news. We're doing Star Wars. We said we were going to come back and do some more Star Wars. We did a ranking podcast 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, we did.
Why are we back at Star Wars again?
Because we were actually going to watch them and be a little bit more critical this time instead of just
we were
from the hip.
We were kind of messing around 2 weeks ago with our ranking,
playing
having a good time. Playing games, fucking scenes from a hat and coin flips and all sorts of shenanigans.
This isn't a ranking today, though.
No.
This is just a discussion on the first three movies, the prequels for any confusion.
So this is part 2 in like a 5-part Star Wars B-sides series where we're going to go through every Star Wars movie. We started with ranking them. Now we're going through a handful of movies every other week, and that's all going to culminate to a spoiler cast for Episode 9 when that hits in December.
And after that, a re-ranking of all movies, including Episode 9.
Exactly. And then that'll be the pure official ranking. But today we're starting with the prequel trilogy of these movies. But before we can start jumping in, Matt just watched all 3 prequel trilogy movies recently, so we're excited to talk about them. But before we do that, Matt, I think we have a Star Wars game today.
A Star Wars Inclination Proclamation.
Oh yeah, the Star Wars Inclination Proclamation. That's what we decided on for the name.
Yes,
that's a good name.
It's a hell of a name.
That's a good name. And you're leading this whole thing right now.
I am.
All right.
So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna ask Richard 10 questions.
Yes.
There's no right or wrong questions. You just give your answer. I've already answered these, and at the end we're gonna go through and see how many of mine and Richard's were matched up and how many we picked other things on.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of goofy. It's just
to loosen us up, get us going.
So my first question, Richard.
Yeah.
Lightsaber color. Green or blue?
Green.
Green, okay.
Yeah, 100% green.
Next question.
Yes. Lightsaber
color, red or purple?
You did 2 lightsaber colors, really?
I did 3.
Why would you? I'm going to go with red. I don't think I deserve purple. Red.
Third question.
Yeah.
Of your first 2 answers,
okay,
being green and red,
this is so stupid.
Which lightsaber color?
Green, always green.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Guardian green.
So that's 3 down. Next,
yes.
R2-D2 or C-3PO?
R2-D2.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just recording this here.
Yeah, he's putting them down because we have to compare. It's very important that we get all the right facts.
Next question is a little different.
Okay.
We got 2 different starships, or just ships, depending on how you want to look at it. J-Type 327 Nubian Royal Starship, or the Sith Infiltrator.
Okay, I'm guessing. I think you mentioned we talked about the J-Type earlier. That is the Naboo cruiser.
It's Nubian.
Sorry, and it's the cruiser that
very
Queen
shiny.
Amidala, very shiny. That chrome looking thing that. Queen Amidala's riding in the beginning of Episode 2, right? Or Padme. Okay, so there's that one. Very cool ship. And then the second one, I'm guessing, is Darth Maul's.
Yes.
from
The ship he takes
1.
to was it Tatooine they were on?
Yeah, Tatooine. Yeah. That I'm going with the J-Type because I love me some Naboo cruisers. I think they look awesome.
Obi-Wan or Qui-Gon Jinn? We're getting real now.
Wow. Shit. Qui-Gon Jinn. Yes, Qui-Gon Jinn, 100%. Tough. Why would you do that?
Question 7.
Okay, go ahead. We're barreling through these.
Teenage Annie or Little Annie?
Little Annie? Annie? Wow, these are both really bad. Little Annie. I'm gonna do Little Annie. They're both, man. Oh God, fuck you, Matt. What's the next question?
This one is maybe not as hard. We'll see.
Okay.
Pod racing scene or the opening chase in Coruscant on Episode 2.
Oh, okay. Pod racing. Yeah.
Fear or anger?
Which question is this?
9.
Fear or anger? I was not expecting this kind of question.
This is my favorite question I came up with.
Anger.
Palpatine or Yoda?
These are all prequel trilogy questions, I feel like they're
whatever
prequel,
you want them to be.
It's
Richard.
a prequel inclination proclamation. I'm getting the sense of, and I'm gonna say Palpatine.
Alrighty.
Yeah.
Let's go back and compare.
Let's go. This is fucking ridiculous.
Number 1, you said green lightsaber.
Yeah.
I said blue.
Blue? Why would you say blue?
I like blue.
Okay. All right.
I have the mind of a child. You're not going to get real answers out of me.
Look at that color. All right,
Number 2, both said red.
Hey, okay, that makes sense.
Number 3, of the first 2 choices, which one did you choose? You said green.
Yeah.
I said red.
Really? You're
I like them red lightsabers.
Sith over Jedi.
Mostly, you know what it is?
What?
Darth Maul's double-sided red lightsaber is my favorite thing.
And we're in a, prequel trilogy inclination proclamation. So.
It was such a cool idea.
Yeah. It was cool.
R2D2 or C3PO, both said R2D2.
Nice. We're smart.
We both took the J-type Nubian Royale ship.
I'm
the
surprised.
Royale with cheese, as they call it.
That's what they call it.
Samuel L. Jackson was there, so I'm saying that's probably what he called it.
If Samuel Jackson saw that ship, he'd be like, "Oh, that's a classic J-type Royale with cheese." Yeah, he would.
Obi-Wan or Qui-Gon? This surprised me.
You didn't think I was going to say Qui-Gon?
Both went Qui-Gon.
Really?
Yes. I love Obi-Wan. I think Ewan McGregor did a great job.
Yeah.
But I really like Qui-Gon's character, the way they made him out to be, and
what Qui-Gon represents to me is like gray Jedi and his awareness of the corruption within the Jedi Council and stuff. Like he represents so much stuff that's bigger than the Jedi Council itself, and I love that. So yeah.
Yeah, I think he's
and he uses a green lightsaber.
Out of all the other Jedi that you meet,
yeah,
the only one that's even close to being like, in my opinion, like as knowledgeable as Yoda is probably Qui-Gon.
Qui-Gon Jinn.
Yeah,
yeah. I mean,
Obi-Wan gets there later, I think, but Qui-Gon's there like the whole time.
He's the one that discovers immortality. It sounds like.
Yeah.
Through the living force.
So I had to go Qui-Gon, man. I love Obi-Wan. Don't get me wrong. It was a
that's
difficult
a
choice.
One.
That's the one I spent the most time on thinking about.
That's a very difficult one.
Next, going from a serious one to a not serious one, Little Annie and Teenage Annie.
Who'd you pick?
We both went Little Annie.
We both went Little Annie?
Both went Little Annie, yeah.
That's a testament to how bad episode 2
We'll get there. Oh, man.
Yeah, we'll get there.
We'll get there.
All right.
Next one was a pod racing scene or opening chase in Coruscant. I did like the opening chase in Coruscant, but I had to go pod racing.
Pod racing just has so much more to it, Like, it's a very iconic scene, and it's one of the best parts of episode 1.
Not only that, they made a good N64 game out of it, so that really twist my niblets.
And if you ever play the arcade version of that, it's super fun.
I heard that. I have never played the arcade version.
You have like the thrusters that you have to like push forward, and you have to like turn by like pushing one thruster forward and then pulling the other one back to like take a left or right turn. It's cool.
It sounds dope.
It's fun.
And the last, we have fear or anger. Both want anger, so
Both
you guys can take whatever that you'd like from that.
Yeah, we're a very angry individual. I thought about fear. That was actually probably one of the hardest questions.
I had no fear in choosing anger.
No? Okay.
No, I was all about anger from the beginning.
That makes sense. That lines up.
Palpatine or Yoda? I went Yoda, you went Palpatine.
Yeah.
I went Yoda because he's probably one of my favorite characters in the whole thing. I think Palpatine's performance is amazing.
Yeah.
His over-the-top antics.
It's so ridiculous.
But I just love Yoda so much. I just couldn't help myself. I have no real reason other than that.
It was the only reason I picked Palpatine is it's the prequel trilogy, and the prequel trilogy is Palpatine's trilogy.
It is.
He owns it. Like, whether you like it or not, whether you're okay with his performance or not, he owns that trilogy. So that was good. That was a good game. That was fun.
I'll give it to Yoda for that when he throws that lightsaber into that. It's not a stormtrooper, clone trooper. Yeah, it just goes right through him. That was pretty awesome. Why didn't they do that shit the whole time?
It's hard. I think it's hard to do. It's not
so
easy
fucking
to
cool.
Just make cool CGI things that work.
So there you go. There's our top 10 of Star Wars Inclination Proclamation.
We did it. We'll probably have one of these again next week, maybe.
Or
2 weeks from now. Sorry.
We'll see.
All right. Getting into the actual movies, we're gonna take this movie by movie. Starting with the Phantom Menace. How we want to start these is with positives. Matt, right off the bat, what were your biggest highlights from this movie?
For the Phantom Menace, Duel of the Fates is my highlight of that movie for sure. That's my favorite part. Darth Maul's in there.
So not just the song, but also the actual fight.
Oh yeah. I mean, the song is one of the best Star Wars songs. Period. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
The choreography is great. However, these fights always seem so short for some reason. I don't know why. They could always do more, I feel.
Yeah, in terms of the length. Yeah, and like the way it goes back and forth between, Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon, Darth Maul all fighting together. Then you have Qui-Gon fighting by himself, and then Obi-Wan fighting by himself with Darth Maul. Like, they are pretty quick. They just kind of zap on by. And then an issue, I'm already going into issues. Issue with Duel of Fates is it's broken up by this much less entertaining scene with Padme infiltrating, her Naboo palace again.
Yeah.
To get to
it's weird.
The Viceroy. So that kind of throws it off.
Here's some action, here's some not action. Here's some action, here's some not action.
I mean, it's supposed to both be action, but one is clearly better than the other.
Yeah, for sure.
No, that's a good one though. That track might be the best track in all of Star Wars, Duel of Fates. So there's that too.
Yeah, it's still one of my favorite things. Even though I'm not that crazy about Episode 1, it's still one of my favorite Star Wars things.
One of my highlights, or one of my big highlights for this episode, is who I argue are some of the best characters introduced in the prequel trilogy, which are Qui-Gon Jinn and Darth Maul. Love them to death. What I mentioned about Qui-Gon Jinn earlier still stands. Like, gray Jedi, very different compared to everybody else you see within that side of the Force, which is really cool.
He just seems smarter than almost everybody else. Maybe the exception is Yoda. Yeah,
very wise indeed. And like the fact that he doesn't want to be in the Jedi Council is really compelling, especially when you see Anakin's fascination and obsession with being on the council and being considered a master.
Yeah, Qui-Gon was almost like disgusted by it. He just wanted nothing to do with it.
It's not like what a Jedi's supposed to covet, that's what it seemed like. So that was really cool. And then Darth Maul, just very intimidating, very cool character. Obviously not that fleshed out, but what you get to see of him in like animated series and such, like that's pretty cool. But in regards to the movie, very, very interesting character. So I would say, as far as highlights go, some of my favorite characters in the prequel trilogy are located in this movie.
Yeah, they have some great characters.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. I wish Darth Maul would have stuck around for a few more movies. They didn't need to take him out the first time.
It's a bummer.
Yeah.
It's a bummer. Anything else? Any other highlights that you wanted to mention?
We talked about this before, but I think the structure that this movie begins is fantastic. Like the foundation that all three movies are actually built on are great. Obviously, it's going to start with this one, though.
Yeah.
So even though it's not my favorite Star Wars movie, they did have a lot of good ideas with a lot of missed opportunities and poor execution.
Yeah, I think that you're going to hear us say that a lot through this podcast. Is like there's a lot of cool foundational stuff here that's like really great and has a lot of potential, but just doesn't quite get to where it needs to go. That said, the opening of this movie is so cool. Like you get to see Jedi in a completely different way than we were, used to seeing them. Having this role of power, and everyone kind of respecting that power and fearing it. Like as they're like cutting through walls and getting closer and closer to the viceroys and stuff. Like that was a really cool, just way to see Jedi in this movie. And they open that movie so well too.
Yeah, the beginning of it I enjoyed.
Yeah. It gets bad after that. Once certain characters are introduced.
It's up and downs. There's one character in particular that stands out.
All right, let's talk about these problematic characters. I have a discussion point here. Looking back, how much did the inclusion of Jake Lloyd's Anakin Skywalker and Jar Jar Binks hamper this film?
I can get over most of Jake Lloyd's stuff. He's a kid, but they were better kid actors during that period of time. They had more people that they could have chose from.
Go ahead.
I did just like that, and Jar Jar is awful. He's all around awful. He drives me nuts. After hearing him for like a minute, I'm just like trying to not listen to anything he has to say or do.
What is it that bothers you so much about him?
His voice, the way he speaks.
Yeah.
Like his
inflection.
words are just like the way he talks is annoying.
Is he just too silly? Like
they make like a poopy joke or something like that. I'm just like,
is this poodoo or
something awful? I don't know. It hurts my head to think about it.
I don't know why I like him so much.
There's something wrong with you. Clearly.
I don't know. Like he's like a playful. I don't think he stands. I guess he's in the way to.
You really like him?
I kind of like that character.
When you said you liked him through these movies, I thought you were fucking joking.
It's semi-ironic. For sure it's like semi-ironic, but there's something to his character that I don't completely despise, which is different than like how I feel about Anakin Skywalker as a kid. And yet, granted, like him being a kid actor, I can let that go, and that helps me enjoy episode 1 a lot.
Yeah, I can let that go too.
But the reason like Jake Lloyd's Anakin Skywalker bothers me so much is like, you're right, there are better kid actors, and it really feels like they got the worst one. Like it really feels like they just got someone so below the bar of what is acceptable for a Star Wars movie. For
yeah,
this,
I mean,
blockbuster film.
I think that's a problem throughout all 3 of these movies. Is they nailed some of the characters, like the actors for some of the characters, and then other ones were just like, so like, how did you miss this by that much?
The highs and lows are so far apart from each other.
It's crazy.
There's this massive valley between the two, which is nuts. Jar Jar, I don't know, man. I'm trying to probably should have figured out what it was about Jar Jar that I liked so much before going into it. But I think, I don't know, there's just a lightheartedness to him that I'm okay with. It doesn't bother me that much. I kind of like I quote him all the time. Like, it's just a funny...
Richard, I wrote some notes just so you know about episode 1. I think my only note for Jar Jar, I may have wrote it a few times, but it's my only note. It's just embarrassing. That's all I wrote. Jar Jar, embarrassing.
All right. I mean, I guess he is kind of embarrassing.
It's embarrassing to the film.
Does he ever make you laugh?
Not a single time.
What about when he goes, whoopee, whoopee, when he has the thing in his mouth that he's eating?
If I'm laughing at him, it's like at how bad the scene is.
Yeah.
It's not that he's making me laugh because he's funny. It's like when you watch a really bad movie and it's so bad that you're laughing at it.
Yeah, I wanna have a good justification for people who like Jar Jar. I want to have a good justification, to fight for him, but I don't. He doesn't bother me that much for whatever reason. I think he's a well executed character. I think he serves his purpose. He's, he's okay. He doesn't whereas I look at Anakin Skywalker and it's like, clearly they didn't get the performance they wanted out of that character. That actor did a bad job. I don't think Jar Jar did a bad job. I think we got Jar Jar out of Jar Jar.
I think a lot of the problem too, if we're going to talk about the actors, we need to be a little bit fair. I think the dialogue written is poor throughout pretty much all the prequels. The writing is not good, for at least the dialogue. The story might have some good moments and things like that, but I think most of the dialogue is not good. And I think that the director, whoever was, giving these people,
George Lucas,
direction,
Lucas,
didn't do a good job at all.
Well, I think
there's no direction.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they were messing with new technology. I don't think he 100% knew what he was doing either.
To me, it felt like they filmed these scenes in one shot, and whatever they got, they rolled with.
Yeah.
Yep. Next scene.
We'll fix it with the special effects. We have, they were it very much seemed like they were leaning on that. I think by episode 3, it gets a lot better. But yeah, early on. One thing I did want to mention about Phantom Menace, probably the most practical effects of any of the prequel trilogy movies.
Definitely, better than 2. 2 is really egregious with how many CG effects are into, like the whole friggin' movie's in like CG.
And it's bad CG.
And it's not even good.
It's bad CG.
One doesn't look that great just because the CG is old now. But it's passable, like it's fine. There's not an overabundance of it.
But there are also like actual sets too, like when they're on Tatooine, like when they're in the Senate chambers with not the Senate chambers, the chambers where the fucking Palpatine is. Mm-hmm. Like that's primarily like practical effects, actual sets and stuff. So I appreciated seeing that, because once we move past this episode, it's kind of all gone. Like you don't get to see that. There was also the the Naboo starfighters when they're like taking down that Trade Federation ship, where you get to see like actual people in starships instead of like CGI clones. Like that was kind of cool too. So that's that's a little thing that I liked, that kind of harkened back to like old school Star Wars, which was kind of nice.
Yeah, and going back to what you said earlier about the beginning of it being good, when they were using the lightsabers to like melt that door down, that was an awesome part. Like, they should be doing that stuff in other Star Wars movies. Like that was a excellent scene. Yeah,
completely changed how you viewed lightsabers. You're like, oh shit, like these things are super powerful if you like put enough force behind them. That was a really cool thing. I like that a lot.
One of my favorite quotes was from this movie too.
Oh yes, you're
Fear
Yoda.
leads to anger, anger leads to hate, hate leads to suffering. That was one of my favorite quotes from all of Star Wars.
You bring that one up, and I feel really bad for picking Palpatine over Yoda. Because that is a really good line.
I forced you to take anger or fear, though.
Yeah,
I didn't
that's
really
true.
give you a choice
that's
there.
true. It was going to be anger no matter what.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that is really good. And then, like, quiet. You say the writing is pretty poor and the dialogue is pretty poor throughout this trilogy, and I agree for the most part. That said, that's a really good line. I think Qui-Gon has a lot of good, like, back and forth between him and Obi-Wan. I think so. I do wonder sometimes, like, how much of the stiltedness of the dialogue is due to the actors or the writing. Because when you look at,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, when you look at how Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan interact, like, it feels good. It's a cool,
Yes.
Yeah, it feels cool.
I think most of it stems from everything around Anakin.
Yeah.
Every time he has to speak or has having a conversation with somebody.
It almost seemed like
in any of the movies.
Yeah, in any of them. It almost seemed like Lucas didn't know how to write that character.
It really feels that way.
Or he got, like, too self-indulgent, writing about angels. Are you an angel? Like, all these, like, weird... Yeah, it seemed... Man, that might be it. I feel like Anakin is where he just kind of dropped the ball in writing. No, Jar Jar is written really well.
No.
Should I do our last discussion point for Phantom Menace, and then we can move on to Attack of the Clones?
I'm going to say one. Well, I said it earlier. The music is fantastic in episode 1.
Music throughout... John Williams will never do bad music, it seems like. It seems like he's incapable of doing such a thing. The music throughout this whole damn trilogy and all of Star Wars is just unstoppable.
Oh, and then one more negative note that I made while we were watching it.
Yeah.
I guess it's kind of a plot hole, not really. Palpatine says wipe them all out and they don't kill anybody. That really bothers me.
Oh, yeah.
Why did they have to have him say that? Why didn't he say arrest them all or like, take all of them?
Find Amidala or whatever. Yeah, because Matt's talking about, like, near the end of the episode 1, at one point, Lord Sidious is talking to the trade viceroys in Naboo, and he's saying, like, wipe them all out, wipe out this insurrection of, like, Gungans and all that. And when Senator or Queen Amidala or Padme storms them, they don't, like, kill them. They kind of, like, take them hostages.
Yeah, they were, like, basically taking hostages after he said to wipe them all out.
Yeah.
So why didn't they? All they had to do was change his words, like take them all or something like that.
Just a silly
not
oversight.
Wipe them all out.
They probably thought they wiped them out in the green screen, or, like, they were going to, and they just forgot to do it. All right, I'm gonna last and most important question for the Phantom Menace before we move on. You ready?
Yeah.
Matt, why does Watto work so well?
Because I think a lot of people can, like, relate to a Watto in their lives.
That's so fucking ridiculous. But I think it's also 100%.
Like, if you ever go to I think Watto is like the fucking typical used car salesman.
Yep.
Like, hey, what are you doing?
What do you need? You won't find a T14 hyperdrive anywhere else, I'll tell you that.
I'm from the East Coast, so he just reminds, like, I could walk into, like, an auto body shop in the East Coast and somebody would fucking try to roll me, like the way Watto would.
He reminds me of my Romanian ass dad, for sure. Like, I connect to him in a big way. I fucking love Watto.
Yeah, it's just something familiar about him. Like,
something familiar.
I like Watto. I don't know why.
He's like a warm blanket.
I wouldn't go that far.
I would say it. 10 out of 10 Watto. All right.
Definitely better than Jar Jar.
But yeah, I'll say that. I'll admit to that. But I think they both have played well.
Sure.
All right. Cool. Take it. It's a win. All right. So that's Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones. Man, this is so this is a movie, Attack of the Clones.
It is a film.
I think like 3 years after episode 1, I believe. Yeah, before we get into the negative, I mean, I will say, preface, like, this is what we ranked as our worst Star Wars movie when we ranked all 10.
Yeah, and going back and seeing it, rightfully so.
Rightfully so. Okay, we'll get into it. Let's start positive. What were your biggest highlights from this movie, Matt?
Coruscant looks really cool, like the cyberpunkishness of that whole area.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they blow it up a little bit more. We get to see more Coruscant. We see it at night for the first time.
Jango Fett is in the movie.
Jango Fett is awesome.
He is cool. I'm just like reading like from notes.
Yeah.
They went back to the moisture farm, which I thought was awesome. Like that was really tight.
Yeah, we get to see Luke's basically home before he's there and stuff. We get to see like Klieg Lars, his father, his grandfather-in-law, effectively, or yeah, whatever it is.
And today, the other thing that I liked was that you, for the first time, you see Anakin go off the rails and kill all the Tusken Raiders.
You like that?
I did like that.
Not just the men,
right?
But the women and children too.
I like that because it's you have to see him turn at some point, and I think that was a good plot point for him to turn, a good reason for him to start turning.
Yeah, and it showed his lack of control and him going off the wheel and stuff, and how that can it's foreshadowing. It's pretty good foreshadowing.
What about you? What did you like from this movie?
I think episode 2 has really great just singular moments, little things that like really stand out to me. The cantina scene on Coruscant, if you want to call it a cantina, I don't know what you would call it when it's on actual city planet.
When they were chasing the changer,
when they're
whatever, is it called a changer? Is
changeling? I think
changeling.
She's a changeling, the bounty hunter basically that's trying to assassinate Padme. When they chase her into like that bar, it's a bar.
Yeah,
and just seeing that represented in the Star Wars universe was really cool. This seedy kind of bar, techno cyberpunk kind of bar was really cool. Someone trying to sell Obi-Wan death sticks, and he's like, "You don't want to sell me death sticks." Like, I don't want to sell you death sticks. Like that was just cool. Like it just felt really cool to be in that area. It felt realized. I think there was actually probably a decent amount of practical effects. Like that might be actually set.
It might have been.
That might be one of the few sets in that movie that's like fully mapped out, which was really cool. There's a cool lady with a thong, like a red thong in there.
Jesus.
As well, that's a big plus.
I like that showed Anakin still like not in control of himself, because he kind of went off the rails and ran in there by himself. And like Obi-Wan took it slower, and like he was being way more thoughtful of the situation. Yeah,
you get to see a dynamic between the two play out and see how they're different and stuff. That is cool, and like a lot of teachable moments where he's like, "Don't lose this lightsaber. It's your life." He's like, "I got it. You make sure you take care of it. I got it." Like that. Yeah, that was a really cool moment too. And then Jango Fett is a huge boon to this movie, like a really cool character that they introduce. His fight scenes are all really awesome. He's a very cool character.
Yeah.
Him, like the fight between him and Obi-Wan on Kamino.
All the clone army is basically made from him, which is friggin' awesome.
Yeah, that's very cool. You get the introduction of the clone army. I actually had that as a question. I think we can just jump into it. So the core and central premise of this movie, as well as the animated series, is based on a throwaway line from Obi-Wan in A New Hope, where he mentions the Clone Wars. So I wanted to ask, like, are you happy with how this singular line of dialogue from the original trilogy is realized and brought to life with like the clones and like, the quote unquote Clone Wars themselves?
Yeah, and I think it's cool. I don't have a problem with it at all.
I think, I like it because I don't know, that's such a line that they could have just completely ignored, and to just like to dive into it the way they do, I think was really exciting.
Yeah, I have no promise or problem with the premise of the Clone Wars whatsoever. Like I said, the structure of these movies is there. Like the stuff that they're doing, like the road that they're on is fine. It's just all the stuff that they put on that road doesn't make any damn sense. It's like, why is there a ship on the road? This is a road. There should be cars and trucks. No, like they don't. You know what I'm saying?
The ships being wonky dialogue with Anakin, and like that weird fucking creepy relationship between him and Padme and stuff, right? Which I think halts this movie in a big way. Is one of the biggest roadblocks for it.
Right. The foundation and the direction they're going is great, and there's things in there that just messed it all up.
Yeah, I think we're going to talk a lot about Palpatine probably at the end after we like go through each movie, but I think you get to see a lot of his machinations starting to come and form in episode 2, as he's taking more control over the Senate, saying convincing he does, like he becomes a chancellor in episode 1, doesn't he?
Palpatine?
Yeah,
I think towards the end, I believe.
Yeah, and so in this one he gets the rights to the clone army, which Jar Jar gives to him. So I think we get to see how the Clone War is effectively kicked off in this movie, and I think that's really cool. And it gets dove into even more in like the animated series, which I love to death. and we get to see some of it in Revenge of the Sith as well, which is really cool. What do we want to like? So yeah, we called it our worst Star Wars movie. I think you're still on that same page. I think I'm still on that same page. What are like the worst things about this movie, Matt? Like what really bring it down?
For episode 2?
Yeah.
The writing. The dialogue between characters.
I think this is where it really starts to fall apart. The dialogue specifically.
It's look, 2 is not good. Or I'm sorry, 1 is not good.
Yeah.
2 is like really, really bad.
It's bad. You have infamous lines about sand and how it's coarse and gets everywhere, and you have I have an issue with Anakin Skywalker's character development here in a big way, because you have him supposedly supposed to be like at odds with like who he wants to be as a Jedi and like his love for Padme, but it doesn't feel like that ever. It just feels like he's all about Padme at all times, which is like almost exhausting. Like when it's like everything he does is like motivated through selfish intent, and it's hard to like pick out any points where he has like redeemable qualities, and that gets really exhausting watching this character who you're supposed to see as like, oh, he's kind of redeemable somewhere, and in this movie he does some of the more irredeemable things that I've seen, specifically with him, going to go save his mom, but like refusing to help out Obi-Wan, and freaking what's her face, Padme has to like convince him to save Obi-Wan and Geonosis, and him just full hog trying to bang Padme the whole movie, like, and not even trying not to, like, not even looking at the tenets of like what a Jedi is supposed to be, and struggling with that. Like, it's so exhausting to just see such a horn dog not even be unabashedly a horn dog like the whole way through.
I mean, my biggest problems with him is, I mean, look, when they're having a dialogue between him and Padme, first of all, the relationship is not believable. Mm-hmm. Like, it's just not. Like, the whole dialogue they have, like, there's no reason for either of them to love each other.
There's not a single moment of believable chemistry in this movie.
No. And then the second problem I have is there's multiple points, especially in this film, where people, like, she might be talking to Anakin or something, and he's just staring at her like a creeper. Yeah. And it's bizarre.
Yeah, these are...
Like, bizarre. Like, how were you attracted to this man?
No, it's really bad. And that's bad direction. I don't know if it's bad direction specifically, or if that's just what he thought was a good move, Hayden Christensen, in terms of like, this is how I look at women when I'm attracted to them. But yeah, it's unsettling. And yeah, that goes into like the zero chemistry that exists between these two characters. Is there any moment in episode 2 between Anakin and Padme that you can look at and be like, yeah, that's okay. That was good. That was something.
I mean, none that I can think of off the top of my head. I didn't write anything positive down because everything I seen between the two of them was pretty damn negative all the time.
At all times. I think there's some moments with Padme where maybe, I don't know, there's something there. Like when they kiss, you know what? The cinematography of when they kiss as they're being like marched out to the Gladiator Stadium, and you have their like silhouettes and they're like going away from the camera. That was kind of cool. That was something.
Mm-hmm.
But moving on to Revenge of the Sith. I think that covers episode 2. I think we're good.
Yeah, we're good.
On Attack of the Clones.
No one needs to talk about episode 2 for a long period of time.
Yeah, as that can be it for a long, long time.
Yes.
If it's the worst movie, still, after rewatching all these movies, and episode 9 comes out, and it's better than episode 2, episode 2 won't even be on the list.
Of the top 10?
Of the top 10.
We would just have to say the best Star Wars list,
That's
not
exactly
the top 10.
Exactly, that's what we're going to do. All right, Revenge of the Sith, Matt, Revenge of the Sith, last of the trilogy, the culmination of Anakin Skywalker completing his transformation into Darth Vader. We're going to start positive again.
Yes.
What were your biggest highlights from this movie?
I liked most of Palpatine's scenes.
Yeah.
Even though he was super over the top, like, he was almost like a caricature of Palpatine. He's very silly. He's very over the top. He leans into the camp in a big way in this movie. Part of me almost feels like Ian McDiarmid, I think is his name, the actor who played Palpatine, like figured out what this trilogy was far before anyone else did, and just knew how to play this character, and realized he just had to play it up
like a silly person and be super over the top and be a caricature and all that.
Yeah, there was a lot more scenes that I liked, I think, in this movie compared to the other two.
Yeah.
The other two might have had better, one had Duel of the Fates might have been a better moment than anything that happened in the other movies, but I think I like more of the scenes in episode 3. They're more interesting. Hayden Christensen didn't bother me as much in most of the scenes.
Yeah, but he still had some
pretty bad stuff.
Yeah, some very cringy.
But not as bad as 2, though. I mean...
I don't think... Yeah, I'm trying to think if he ever gets as bad as 2, and probably not. He gets very memey.
He has little stairs.
Yeah,
he has Padme. Yeah, he has little awkward stairs.
He only has like 1 or 2 of those, which is nice. Not as many, so that's pretty good. I think from a consistency standpoint, this is the most consistently on the level prequel trilogy film. Like I think it maintains its momentum in a good way. It's one thing we didn't mention about episode 2 is like the pacing in that movie is very disjointed. Things happen and they just throw off the pacing of other things a lot in episode 2. Episode 3 really holds on to a steady pace, and it has... After we just watched episode 3, and that opera scene where Anakin and Palpatine are like having that discussion about Darth Plagueis and keeping people alive and the things that a Jedi won't be able to teach you.
Very cool
Scene. Like very, very good scene. Like probably one of my favorite in all of Star Wars.
Yeah, it had some excellent. There's actually some good dialogue that usually doesn't involve Hayden Christensen speaking. But a lot of it has to do with Palpatine and like the things that you hear. Like when in the beginning, Yoda's having a conversation with Anakin, and he's providing him with like really good really good ideas and wisdom. And like that was an excellent scene.
You're talking about like when Anakin is telling Yoda about his premonitions of someone that is close to him.
Yes.
Dying. And Yoda says like
he's like warning him.
Yeah, he's like that's why you can't like give into attachment, because it builds fear. Like it's good because it's very much like you're coming to your father with this problem that you have that you can't fully explain to him. And because he doesn't know the full scope of the problem, he's giving you the best advice that he thinks he should be giving you. And it just doesn't apply to what you need. It's like, it's not, but you don't realize that I'm in love with this person and I'm having a child with this person. So you saying that I can't have attachment, it's too late. Like I have the most attachment. So I thought that was a really cool moment that that's a really good moment between him and Yoda. And then he has like a similar moment with him and Palpatine in the opera. And yeah, that's really cool too. I like that he gets like this father-son mentoree moment with both these characters, and what Palpatine gives him is clearly so much more valuable and irresistible than what Yoda gives him.
Before they got to the opera, I think it was when Palpatine tells him "good as a point of view." I thought that was one of the best lines in the movie. That's a great line.
Dude, I wish we had like a transcript of all of Palpatine's lines in this film in front of us, because there's so many things that he says. Yeah,
this movie, if about anything, I mean, it was about Anakin becoming Vader, but Palpatine, I think, was even bigger of a part.
Him fully becoming the Emperor and building his empire, putting the final touches on his empire is very much what this movie talks about a lot, and what it does really well. So I mentioned, like, does this movie do the rise of Darth Vader justice? And I don't know, but it definitely does the rise of Palpatine.
It gives Vader a reason to become Vader, saving, the life of his wife, and gives him like a hardcore reason as to, why he would do what he did.
One thing I liked watching it just recently that I picked up on is, his premonitions about her dying, like, are clearly premonitions of a future where he turns to the dark side. Mm-hmm. Like he's seeing those premonitions because he has an attachment to Padme, and because he's afraid of losing her, and it's that fear that is fueling
his anger
and his fear and his passions and stuff. Like that is showing him the dark side of the future, as opposed to if he let go of his attachment, maybe he could see a future that wasn't clouded by his fear and his anxiety and stuff. I think that's a really cool thing that we see as well. Because it could have gone a different way. Like, it makes it feel like it could have definitely gone a different way.
For sure.
Which I really like. I have some questions here. Any highlights? Any other highlights that you wanted to bring up that you really liked about this movie?
I have a couple other things. It's really about the movies combined, which we're going to get into at the end, almost like a recap. So I'm going to save that part. Do you want to go into negatives, or do you want to just?
We have some discussion points. What do I have here? Hayden Christensen's performance is undeniably better, I think, in this movie. I think we can agree on that.
I would say it's not great. It's not. I wouldn't even say it's good. It's better.
Okay.
But it's not good.
That's what I was going to say. How much better is it really? And it just...
he went from like a 1 out of 5 to like a 2 out of 5.
I think what I like is it's less cringy watching him speak and interact with people and more funny on accident. Like, because
he gets to be angry. He's still a whiny little bitch in certain scenes.
Yeah.
But I think it's because he gets to be angry that he's a little bit better, maybe.
That was actually a big complaint I've had about this movie for a long time, is he's so disjointed and unhinged in this movie when I feel like he shouldn't be, because he's a Jedi Knight. But you were mentioning before we started recording that it kind of has to happen like that, because he has to be unstable he has to be remorseful as he kills these people. And giving him tears and stuff makes him redeemable, gives him the sense that he can be redeemed.
Right.
Because he's clearly having so much struggle.
Yeah, they have to have some sort of opening for him to be redeemed later on.
Yeah, so
clearly.
You have to make him crying as he's killing younglings or, turning to the dark side and such. Yeah, I agree with that statement. I just feel like it could have been done better, which is, par for the course for this whole trilogy. It just feels like they could have done a little bit more, put a little bit more legwork to make these moments feel more impactful and more compelling.
Yep, absolutely. There were a couple of other bad things. Palpatine killed 2 Jedi with 2 swipes of his sword. And I know he's supposed to be super powerful, but geez, come on, man. They didn't even try to defend themselves. There was no crossing of the lightsabers or anything. He just wiped out 2 guys 1-2.
Yeah, here's a big negative complaint. I think the fight choreography in this movie is almost always pretty bad. I think that's a great
with one exception would be the beginning of Obi-Wan and Anakin's fight.
Yeah,
the beginning of that
fight starts off really, really well
until they hop on those fucking floating
and then
things.
They jump the shark and they start swinging at each other on ropes and all that shit. But I looking at the Palpatine moment that you just mentioned and how he just they don't put any effort into him taking down those 2 Jedi. Him and Kit Fisto stays alive. The guy with the tentacles, the green guy with the tentacle ears. He stays alive for another 5 seconds before he dies too, and then it's just him and Samuel Jackson, Mace Windu, and that doesn't last very long either. So it
could have been a lot better.
It could have been better. Same with the General Grievous fight.
I was just gonna say that too. Same thing.
Yeah, it's something that could have been so much more exciting and so much more hype. Just ends so quick, from the second that their lightsabers cross, General Grievous and Obi-Wan Kenobi, the second those make contact, it takes I think I counted 10 seconds before his hand gets cut off, his first hand.
Mm-hmm. It was super quick.
So something that makes him such an interesting character to fight is thrown out the window almost immediately. And then not only that, when General Grievous and Obi-Wan are fighting, it's all close shots. It's all just Obi-Wan swinging his sword at nothing because he's fighting a CGI whatever. So it doesn't feel like there's any impact in that fight when they're using lightsabers, which is a bummer.
Yeah, and one thing I forgot that I did like about it too was there was a theme that these Anakin and Padme were supposed to be younger in this movie. They're a little bit older than they were in the other ones, of course, but they're still young. Essentially kids or teenagers,
impressionable.
And it just showed reminded me of being a teenager and being blindly in love with someone. You're doing stupid shit.
I'll do whatever I can
to
keep this relationship
right. I think
intact.
that's a very relatable thing that people have. So I thought that part was that part was believable.
You like that?
I do like that.
Yeah,
even if you don't like the way it was acted, I like the premise of the idea of that.
Yeah. I mean, I see what you're saying. I think my issue with it is if you reduce it to the basis sum of its parts, it reads as I was really fucking horny and that's why I turned to the dark side, as opposed to Anakin or Luke Skywalker's flirtation with the dark side later in later movies. He does it because he has an attachment to his friends and he wants to help his dad, so he's willing to turn to the dark side to get enough power to help his dad. Like it feels more moralistic and like a more ethical debate that's happening, as opposed to Anakin's like, I just want to fuck. Like, it's just like, that's what it feels like when I'm watching Anakin struggle with his attachment and stuff. And maybe I'm, undermining him a little bit, not giving him enough credit. It is his, his future children. It is his wife, the love of his life, his only love of his life. But it just reads a little bit different to me, and it's hard to kind of come to grips with.
Are you happy with how the movie tied into the original trilogy?
It's pretty cool. I think it does a pretty good job. We swipe or wipe 3PO's memory. You have I
guess that was a necessary thing to do.
You had to do it. You have to do it, or else 3PO could not have been in this trilogy at all until he wouldn't be allowed in. You have that. You have Luke and Leia going to their respective places. I think seeing Darth Vader, get trashed and seeing like how he becomes, more machine than man, to quote A New Hope. Like I thought that was pretty cool too. I think it does a pretty good job, like making that bridge.
For sure.
What do you think?
I mean, it was, I think it would, as far as it tying into the other movies goes, I think it did a pretty good job. Like I said, the foundation was there from the beginning. Yeah. Like the premise of these movies is all fine. There's just some poor acting. There's some poor writing, some poor direction to the actors.
100%.
If Lucas relinquished some control over these, I think you would have had a much different outcome of the trilogy. Especially choosing the actors, and having the directors.
The fact that should we just move into like discussing like the whole prequel trilogy as a whole?
Well, Alec wrote in about episode 3.
Okay, should we touch on that?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good idea. So yeah, Alec, this is from @TallGuyAlec from Twitter. Alec writes, I know the talk between Obi-Wan and Anakin on Mustafar before they fight is damn near Shakespearean levels of melodrama, and some may not enjoy it. But I absolutely adore it. It's likely a top 3 moment of the entire franchise history for me. Having the best character in the saga yell the words, "My allegiance is to the Republic, to democracy," just does it for me like nothing else. Thoughts?
It's not my favorite scene. I mean, it has its good moments, like the whole thing to the democracy. Yeah. I get that. Like, Obi-Wan's definitely one of the best characters. Again, Ewan McGregor did an amazing job. I almost would rather not be to the Republic. I would rather, you don't buy the Republic.
It's
not that I don't buy it. It's just like I don't. It almost came off to me like America. It came off as something like that.
Too patriotic.
I'm not saying it was American, but it's just like
xenophobic. Yeah.
Your allegiance should be to,
but to
maybe
democracy.
the idea of democracy, but to the all right.
To the Republic, which is democracy.
I just don't want it to be like to the Senate or a governing body.
Okay,
if he said to the people, I think I would have been a better choice of words. But I get that's kind of the same thing, so I guess it's fine.
Yeah,
I don't really care one way or another. I'm not like really overwhelmed by it, and I'm not really like it's not terrible. I
mean, in regards to like what specifically like the delivery, that Shakespearean delivery. I think the first time that I watched it, and the first couple of times, it really rubbed me the wrong way. It just felt like overacted almost, and that was more my issue with it. Like. But I don't know. I think I've kind of come around to it to a degree. It doesn't bother me as much, but considering the whole tone of the movie throughout and how it was very melodramatic the whole way through, I think that was the movie they were doing.
Yeah.
It was the Shakespearean tale. So I think a Shakespearean level of delivery is probably the only way that it works. And I think that's why Palpatine, his character fits so well in this movie, because he's Shakespearean all through fucking out. That whole goddamn theater scene or opera scene is the most Shakespearean thing. So I think it works. I would have liked something else more, but I guess it lines up with like what the movie is. presenting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I like I said, I like the idea of it. I think I don't know. I think it would have done a little bit differently.
Yeah, I agree. All right.
But I like how Anakin died.
Oh yeah.
Well, not died,
but got wrecked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool. I like how they showed you him. Like how Obi-Wan had the higher ground.
Yeah, but like
I don't mind that. Like that part's like such like a meme or whatever. But like when he's like catching on fire and he's like pulling himself up with one arm, that's what I like about the scene. Like
cool.
the like him screaming "I hate you." Like I actually like that part. Like that part's really cool.
It's not bad,
and it shows you how he got scarred, how his face turned.
To
look the way that it did. Like they did the same thing with Palpatine earlier on. But I just like I don't know, him being in that fire was so fucking cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fun. I like it. I'm into it.
I enjoyed a lot more of the scenes in 3 than almost any other movie out of the prequel trilogy. So.
I think it's by far and away a better shot movie. I think the effects work in this movie, like the CGI works. I think it's a good looking film, much better than probably 1 or 2. I do appreciate that. What do you think, Matt? Should we just jump into like the prequel trilogy as a whole, what we think?
Let's do one more question and then we can hop into that.
Okay, so one question. Yeah, okay, let's do it.
So at J Hunter Pierce writes and says, if you could recast any character, who would it be, and who would you recast them with?
All right, so clearly both of us are going to pick Anakin Skywalker.
Without a doubt. I mean, we didn't even have a discussion. We
knew. We saw this question. We looked at each other and we're like, yeah.
Specifically, teenage Anakin the child actor?
The teenage Anakin, because he's in more movies. Sure. He's in more movies, and he has a bigger impact, and he has a bigger role to play.
And he's awkward as shit.
And he's too much. Yeah, he's too bad. He does too bad of a performance. All right, Matt, who would you recast him with then? Who was the guy at the time?
The only person that really came to mind that could play a role as like almost like a hero and a villain was Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah, I like this idea a lot. I like it way more than what my idea was.
He's on the old end now, but back then, you could have threw some makeup on him, and he could have pulled it off.
I think the movie that came out around the same time was Catch Me If You Can, and he does play like a high schooler in the very beginning of that movie. So they clearly, he was able to like play that role. He was young looking enough.
Yeah, and he's an amazing actor.
It'd be insane. Do you think it would have been weird though to see this character who was in Titanic and all these like famous huge movies?
I get that.
Yeah.
But they chose an actor that I didn't know. And I wasn't happy with it.
It worked.
Right.
I don't agree with this idea that Star Wars has to be no-name actors.
I prefer it to be that way, but I mean,
if they're good.
I don't know any no-name actors, so that's why I had to pick Leonardo DiCaprio.
But also the best actors in the prequel trilogy were freaking Liam Neeson and Ewan McGregor.
This is very true.
Huge actors.
Very true. They did their roles amazingly.
So, I don't know, maybe you stick with someone who knows what they're doing.
Right.
I love Leonardo DiCaprio. I think the whole idea of like you saying that like he can play a good guy and a bad guy, like he has that range. Man, how cool would that have been? Also, he has blue eyes and like the proper hair color and complexion.
Yeah. Have you ever seen him angry in a movie?
Yeah,
he looks like a fucking maniac.
It's horrifying. We could have got man. I don't even like my idea anymore. I was gonna say Christian Bale.
Like here's the thought in my head when I'm thinking of like you need somebody who's like angry and like losing their fucking mind. Imagine if oh god, what's the movie? Jack Nicholson, like his most famous. The Shining. Yeah. Imagine if The Shining was reshot, but with Leonardo DiCaprio.
Oh,
he's
really?
the only person I can imagine playing that role.
Whoa,
that's what I want to see out of him, like just losing his shit.
As Anakin.
Right. I think he could put on that level of acting.
Yeah, it would have made that whole movie so much more compelling. Also better direction, but yeah, that would have been nice.
Yeah. If Hollywood steals, my idea of remaking The Shining with Leonardo DiCaprio,
you heard it here first.
I expect a paycheck.
It was here. Matt's the first person ever to say that.
Money.
Money. Give Matt money. I was gonna say Christian Bale, but I don't like it as much as Leonardo DiCaprio. But I just thought he was like a phenomenal actor. He was young enough at the time.
I don't know what he looked like back then. I mean, I guess his look does matter. I think I just see him as Batman. I see him as being like way too like physically big.
Yeah.
To play that role, but maybe if he was like a little bit,
he's willing to do whatever he needs to his body. He did Machinist. He did Batman. He'll go up down. Dick Cheney. He became a fat fuck for that.
Yeah, so. I think he could do it for sure. I don't know what he looked like, so I don't know how well he'd fit the part. So it's hard for me to visualize.
I like Leo way more. Man, people would have been so upset though.
Oh, they would have.
They
But
would
then
have been so mad.
if
But
you
then
got a
he
good performance out of it, who cares?
They wouldn't know how bad it could have been.
Right.
Though.
They would have had no
They
idea.
no idea about Hayden Christensen, this
Staring
alternate
awkwardly
universe.
when
Yeah,
someone's
they had
having a
no
conversation
idea.
with
They
them.
would just shout on the fact that it was the guy from Titanic. It would have been fucking annoying. All right. Okay. All right. We're moving over to just discussion of the whole trilogy here.
Yeah, this will just be a couple quick topics on, some like things that overarch between the movies.
Yeah. Let's start about, because we talked about just fans right now being upset about shit. Like the flack that George Lucas got for this trilogy, do you think it's warranted, like, to this day? The amount of hate he got?
Maybe not the amount, like, to this more serious level of things, but like he should have relinquished some control. He shouldn't have been in control of like everything with these films. He should have said, I'm going to, make sure, the film's foundation is here. Mm-hmm. This is what we need to do. You're going to be in charge of hiring actors.
Yep.
This person's going to be in charge of, going over the script and making change, like an editor almost. Like, obviously he was going to write the script, but like, even if you had an editor, somebody who can make him compromise.
A treatment. Just all of those scripts needed was a treatment from like people who knew what the fuck they were doing in terms of writing. So he had control over way too much. He had control over casting, over, every single like layer of special effects, like all these little things. And if he was able to relinquish a little bit of control, I think we would have got a way cooler movie. In regards to him getting like the flack he got, I think this trilogy is like a really fascinating like cultural phenomena, in that this almost feels like where the mob of Twitter was like born in a way, like this is where fans started to like decide and dictate like the creative flow of things that they should probably have no right to dictate. And I feel like that's kind of gotten out of control.
Oh yeah, fans now think they can control everything.
And to an extent, they kind of do. Like
it's
with
scary.
how much they complain about things. And I feel like almost it was Star Wars being as bad as it was that really like kind of triggered the level of outrage that made people realize like, wow, if we get mad enough, we can like impact change in a negative way. So
yeah, I mean, you'd still want the creators to do what they want to do, whether it's good or bad. You don't want to, even if he made these three movies, they would have been different without him. Who's to say that it would be better?
Exactly. Like it's hard to say, because I do think like we've said multiple times, and we can like focus more on this like portion of the conversation, but like the execution is what was lacking, but the potential of what
there was tons of potential. There was
so like the premise of these movies, it's awesome, and it does sound really cool to like see, this character turn to the dark side and become this horrifying force that we know him as.
So there were some things in the movie that I really enjoyed that were like kind of relatable to things that are happening today. Like Palpatine, he sowed seeds of mistrust in the Republic. He calls it divide. And he was basically able to gain his power that way. That was really cool. Like that's something you see around the world. I'm sure you see dictators doing that stuff all the time.
I mean, we see it in this country right now, right? Like the way that we're divided politically and like from left and right and stuff. So like it's a very similar thing. So like
Russia's systematically dividing our country right now.
There's that too.
I mean, you can believe it or not, but I mean,
it's for sure happening. They're
And then the other thing I like that's relatable is, he basically Palpatine creates this evil empire, which, the UK was like the old evil empire that, stomped around the world and like took over all these countries and shit. And now America is essentially the evil empire. So, and you're starting to see like our empire fall apart. You're starting to see the rise of China right now. Like, it's very relatable. I like those things because it's like,
it's a universal thing.
Right. It's almost like you looked around the world and was like, I'm going to incorporate these ideas into the movies.
And that's one thing I think that like the new trilogy is kind of missing without George Lucas, is like it doesn't seem to have like a bigger scope and message. Like it doesn't have like a big thing that it wants to say. It's more just trying to like recapture certain bits of nostalgia. I
mean, if they're saying like one underlining thing is some people should not have that much power. Power needs to be, divided. There needs to be a balance to the Force.
With the new trilogy, you're saying, or
just in general? I think that was what his tone was from the beginning. And I think J.J. Abrams really picked up on that, and that's what the idea, for him moving forward was to bring a balance to the Force. And then obviously 8 happened, and who the hell knows what's going to happen now? But I think that was his whole point, was that trilogy was going to be about a balance in the Force, and that good versus evil is something that needs to exist. Yeah, because that balance
brings that balance and keeps things level. Yeah, absolutely. All right, man. Closing thoughts. Like, what do you think of this trilogy? Give it to me.
It's just kind of repeating what we already said. The foundation is great. The idea is there. Better actors would have done a huge service to it.
Yeah.
If they rewrote, if they rewrote a lot of the dialogue, that would have helped, or had better acting or better direction to the actors, could have helped tremendously. But when I look at it, it's mostly like Anakin. The scenes around Anakin, like they don't work. And that's really what hurts the movies. And that's
the core of your film.
Right.
And it's tough. I think because you have Palpatine doing such a good job and like him being like the secondary core, it saves this trilogy in a way for me. And I think because of that, I'm kind of excited to see how he plays what role he plays in episode 9. I think that'll be cool.
It'd be very interesting to see what happens in episode 9.
So Matt, before we close out, one last thing I wanted to mention. You're saying that if there was a version of these movies with like better direction, better actors, better all this stuff, that like you would really think you'd enjoy it?
I think that had the potential to be a great trilogy.
What if I told you that kind of exists in the Clone Wars animated series?
That's cool.
Can I get you to watch these movies at some point?
How many seasons are there?
There's like 5.
That's cutting it.
What if I told you it's some of the best Star Wars you'll ever see? And it goes into the balance of the Force. It goes into so many different.
I'm not committing to anything. I mean, I would say I'm being interested in it, but I will not commit to watching 5 seasons of a show.
I will get Matt to watch Clone Wars before this year is up. I promise you. Maybe not. I don't know. We'll see. All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening. I think that wraps it up, right?
Sure. Where can people follow you?
Matt, people can follow me on Twitter at Richard Eiley, RichardIlie. Matt, where can they follow you?
At from NJ, the number 2, CA, from NJ2CA.
Beautiful.
On Twitter.
You can follow Nerdthusiast as well on Twitter. Please do. NERDTHUSIAST, I believe, is the spelling for at Nerdthusiast. But
if you guys are listening, please rate us 5 stars, like us on Podbean,
yes.
Everything you can do wherever you're listening to this at, because we're all over the place now.
We're moving. We're on Stitcher now. We're on Spotify. We're all over. We're going to keep expanding. Hopefully we'll be on whatever your favorite podcast service is soon. But yeah, give us any love and support that you can via likes, subscriptions, whatever it is. It helps us out.
If you follow us on Twitter too, we always solicit questions. So if you guys want to have your questions read, all you have to do is send it to either Richard, I, or the Nerdthusiast on Twitter, and we will respond to your questions in the show.
Exactly. And then next week, back to a regular episode of the Nerdthusiast podcast covering gaming news.
Indeed.
I'm excited.
Indeed.
PlayStation 5 got announced. We kind of knew it was coming, but
not a surprise.
There's a little taste.
Not a surprise.
All right, Matt, sign us off.
Later.